Hello, good evening, and welcome yet again to another session of our leadership conversation on Ituala, Europe. And it's such a great joy, it's such a great opportunity to be with you on this broadcast again. And I want to welcome all our friends from all around the world, from the Caribbean, from the Americas, from Africa, from Europe. We welcome you all as well. Our network, our associates, we welcome everyone as well again. And I want to just encourage everyone tonight, please, as you come in, either you're coming for the first time, share, with others, share with your network as well. Also, for those who have not subscribed to our channel, please do subscribe and also press the notification bell as well, and so that you can get a lot of our program. It's been quite a wonderful journey, so far this year. Last week, oh my God, it was just awesome with Reverend Celia and Ambassador Yemi Akishiwaju. What a great session we had with them. Now we're going we're now changing gear and going really in the hard drive, right? In the real speed. We're accelerating. That's what I should say right now. Because I've got on the program tonight the Gen Zs. Gen Zs, you call them? Gen Zs, yeah. And our focus is the new generation. Look, I don't know, we've talked so much about what's going on, what is wrong with leadership. Okay, we want to get some hope. We want to know that what's our future going to be like especially in our developing nations where Ituala is focused on as well, all around the world itself. Are we making preparations? What we've said is our leadership determines everything. If leadership determines everything, then we need to continually, prepare for leadership. Without succession is a failure. And what makes our leadership a success is succession itself. And that is why tonight, it gives me great pleasure. I'm the host. These guys are always the one hosting me. Now the table is done. I'm here to serve them tonight. And please as well, if you got any young people around you, anywhere, young men, young women, sons, daughters, please get them onto this podcast tonight and let us have a conversation tonight. Welcome with me tonight. I have, oh my God, a young man here, very passionate. No, let's start with the ladies. I said ladies first, isn't it? Okay, ladies first. We start with a young lady here, very passionate. My God, I've known her all our life. But that's not the story for tonight. What I want to let you know that, look, as a professional, she's a lawyer, but also she's passionate about the subject of leadership itself, also passionate about mentoring young girls to become leading ladies, and she's literally wearing it. I told you she's passionate about it. She is the convener of what you call God's girls. She wants girls who are going to be indeed ambassadors, of divinity, who are going to be women that, are taking their position, not just in the marketplace, about making a difference in our world. And welcome with me, Nomsa Thelma. Say something to the people. Good evening.
Good evening, good evening. I am so looking forward to bringing a women's perspective to this conversation.
Oh my God, here we go. Okay, great. Somebody said something last week and said, and I think it was Reverend Cillian, he said, I think we should do a program on, are women leaders better than men in leading? And there's a whole lot of discussion there. I'm not here to make any conclusions. We'll put it to a discussion and have a conversation around it. Okay, but we take that maybe in the next session. And I have a young man here also, and both of them all grew up together, he's an IT guru, he's a business analyst, he's a businessman. Oh my God, he's an entrepreneur, for excellence. He gets his hand into different things. Sometimes I'm now asking, hey, when did you start this one? What are you doing now? He has passion for leadership. He trains young people, mentors as well. He's an author of different skill. Sometimes I'm thinking, when did all these children grow? And he's also a politician. That part of it, maybe some of you don't know yet. Well, you soon find out. But he's getting his hands into and his voice into those areas right now. Please join me to welcome Sheun David Onamusi. Sheun, please say something to the people tonight.
Yes, Pastor JD, Daddy, thank you so much for the opportunity. It's always a privilege to share my insights, share thoughts, and also learn from settings like this. Thank you for putting this together. And as you've rightly introduced, and sometimes when people introduce me like that, I'm wondering, is it me or somebody else they're talking about? So, but thank you very much for the kind introduction, sir.
You're welcome. And all the people, they're excited. It's so great to see you guys and so wonderful to have you. By the way, this is our journey because, look, no matter what we do, if we don't begin to appreciate and actually begin to have a conversation with the new generation that's coming, then as we've had a bad experience with the older generation or the outgoing generation, when they eventually go, then we might even lose the new generation. So it's better for us to engage that new generation as well. Dr. Miles Monroe said something, who is our founder of ITWALA, ITWLA, International Thought World Leaders Association. He said, look, while you engage with current leadership, or whatever leadership that you have, please begin to train your their replacements as well. So while we're dealing with all the leadership issues that we can deal with all around the world, but at the same time, while you're doing that, please be training their replacement. Most of the time, what is happening is that some of these leaders are, in quotes, either leadership, positional leadership in government, in politics, in organization, even within the context of different areas of our lives, from our gifting as well, is that number one, there's no one to pass the baton to because the leadership didn't do what they were supposed to do. Because leaders are supposed to raise leaders. That's true leadership. True leadership raises leaders. And I really, can I even get a feel of you from there? Do you think, and this could be, your experience could be different, but you might have seen some other things as well. What do you think, the leadership that you've grown under, the leadership that you've seen around you, and it could be different experience. Do you think that they've actually given you, they've actually been role models? Have you actually experienced, leadership that are proper role models, leadership that actually passes the baton, or is it a battle or a fight? Just give me your thoughts on this. Nomsa, let's hear from you on that, please.
Thank you. When I was thinking about the new generation rising, I looked at the current leaders and, those from not far long back, maybe the last 10 years or so. And I asked myself, why are their children not seeking to be in certain roles that their fathers were in? And to me, that was a big ask. I thought that was a big question. That was a big pause, because I thought, if the leaders were very good leaders, their children should have admired to be in such positions as them. And I couldn't even think of any former president or organizational leader, except maybe for the late Dr. Miles Monroe. I'm so admired when I see his son following his footsteps because of what was modeled by him. So I see that in certain nations, there is a lack of role modeling for the younger generations that is within their vicinity, talking about their own children. Talk less about those political leaders that are growing up around them. They don't want to be like them. That means they were not doing such a great job. So I think that is the starting point of, if your own biological children don't want to be in a position that you are in, what are you doing that's wrong? Why can't they admire to be in a position that you have held if you held it so graciously?
Fantastic. Thank you so much. Sheol, please give us some perspective. Fantastic thoughts of that from Nomsa.
Yes, really great thoughts by Nomsa. I think there's a need to look at that generational leadership and to really understand where the gaps are. My addition will be that consciously or unconsciously, we have been mentored by previous generation. And whether we are close relatives or not, whether we attended their committee meeting, their church, or even joined their political party, or even observed their political party and their ideologies, we have inherited something from them. We've been modeled something. And that's something. The problem is that the cracks that weren't dealt with by the previous generation is expanding in this new generation. So the problem is almost like, we just swept a lot of things under the rug, and then changed the rug. And when we changed the rug, it looked nice. Everything looked okay. It looked like we were progressing. But we didn't sweep under the rug itself. And that's what's been perpetual. And you see it even from, political leaders, whether it is, the men and women who fought for independence of African countries, to the people who benefited from independence, the military and even democratic governments. You see that pattern there. Just sweep a lot of things under the rug and don't deal with it.
Yeah.
Fantastic. First thing, and fantastic points by two of you, and I can see the Gen Z spirit, just flowing between the two of you right there. Because mentoring starts first with observation.
Yeah.
And so either consciously or unconsciously, just like Shane, and also you were saying, is that what we observe, look, has great impact on our lives and literally can model our lives. And so if we continue to see the wrong things, it has the way it impacts us in different ways that literally we just are replicating the same dysfunctions, or sometimes you literally just turn, it could affect you in different ways. It could turn you off totally, and you don't even have the right model to model, so you don't do anything. Or you model yourself right after what you've seen, and that's just the same dysfunction continue. And that is a terrible place for us to be, especially if we're looking to see a new generation rising. And that's why we got to begin to check that new generation. What is the content of it as well? What will happen? What will be the shape of our world if this new generation rises, if we do not check what is in there? Now, but my thought to you from that point where you both coming from is that, do you think there is enough opportunities of mentoring to change this narrative, or do you see any focus, any deliberate conscious plan for training and mentoring in order to deliberately raise a new generation? Or do you literally see that what is being done is killing the new generation from even rising up? And so, have a shot at that, please.
It is. I was just looking, Zimbabwe, for example, we just celebrate, I'm from Zimbabwe originally, and we just celebrated 43 years of independence. Wow. And I am part of the families that migrated to the UK due to the political issues that were happening with the former president, late Robert Mugabe. And this was almost 30 years ago. And 30 years now, I've got my own children. I don't even look forward to taking them back to my original country because of what is still happening today with the new president who's been there for the past maybe 5 years or so, and nothing has changed. And I asked myself, what is wrong? And they are not intentional. The late president gave the baton to someone who is exactly like him, if not worse. Yet there were younger people that were looking forward to the opportunity to make a difference, but they didn't want to leave the seats. So they are not intentionally mentoring the younger generation to take the positions that they can actually do something about the countries. They want to keep everything to themselves, and they are killing the generation because they are losing the momentum, they are losing the inspiration, they are just moving to the diaspora and then doing their lives over there. And when I look at most people from within my generation that are from Zimbabwe, when they go back to Zimbabwe, they're going back to do their own personal interest things rather than things that benefit the country, because they don't see any hope. They have lost hope because there is no training. There is no intentional passing on of the baton to people, especially that have seen the world, to actually come and say, this is what we can do for our nation. This is how we can build our nation. If you only can take a back seat and allow us to show you what is possible. So, I'll say no.
Fantastic. When that administration changed, and that administration has been there forever, which is number one, bad, definitely killed a whole lot of generations, to get to that place. Then it changed, and I was asking, I said, well, it looks like there's going to be a change. And somebody told me right there and said, there's no change. We're still just within the same context. This is just, we're passing around in circle.
Yeah.
And I said, are you sure? He said, watch.
Yeah.
And when I began to see, the rest is history right now. Sheldon, please talk to us.
When Nomso was talking about Zimbabwe, I thought of Nigeria as well. And there isn't a drastic difference. I fondly say to my friends who are in politics in Nigeria that if we continue in the way that Nigeria is, we will end up where Zimbabwe is, and possibly worse, because we have such a huge population that is under employed and is not used properly. And an idle hand is the devil's workshop. Yeah. So you can see that we're already sitting on a kettle, on a ticking time bomb. So it's no different from Zimbabwe. What I also find is that because of what Nomsa talked about, conscious leadership, I think a lot of previous generation never thought that there will come a day when they would die. And I know that sounds very, very basic, but it's so true. You can't build legacy, you can't build greatness without first understanding that your time on earth is limited. Even if you get 70 years, 80 years, 90 years, something will happen. You would go to where you need to go. That's our ultimate destination. And then the question that you should have been asking when you are alive, if you don't ask that question and not seek to find the answer to that question, you'll end up leaving a terrible legacy for the next generation, which is what we have found ourselves in Africa. So, for example, when those great men and women who fought for independence from colonial rule, when they fought for independence, perhaps they should have asked themselves, now that we have independence, what are we going to do?
What are we?
Clear blueprints and say, 50 years, 100 years, 200 years from now, this is what Africa should look like. This is what the Black, population should look like. And then you start to build on that. Now, I know that some people were unfortunately taken away from us, assassinated in some shape or form. So I can understand that they didn't plan for that. But I think the new set of generation needs to start thinking that way, that from the day that you enter into office, you should start planning your succession. You should start planning the next person that's going to take over you. Because the truth is, the politicians, and I'm using politicians because, we're talking about Africa. The politicians operate in that way. Every president in Africa that goes in a democratic election, from the day they get into the office, they're already planning who's going to get the next term. So it's either they're going for the next term because they're thinking 8-year blocks. And after 8 years, they're thinking, okay, who else is going to come there? And they start playing that game from day one. Right? So for those of us who are now aspiring to go into that field, we should think that way as well. We should come in with 30-year plans, 20-year plans, 50-year plans. And that way we know that, okay, it's like a game of chess. Even if the enemy of progress, pushes us out of it, there's always going to be somebody else that will take over from it because we have a plan that is much bigger than us.
Fantastic. It's that just hits me had that what we've been dealing with is that we never really have leaders because leadership begins with vision. And once you don't have vision, you don't plan for, you don't see nothing. That's why politicians are not by default leaders. Politicians leave to just win the next election. That's all they do. So they're just looking from their own perspective continually there. And that's, it won't work that way. But you see, now, before we go, because, our people they're always waiting for something. let's get some solution here. Let's begin to look at some solution. By the way, and I think I'm looking for two things from both of you guys today. Number one, we need to get the attention of this new generation. And number two, how do we really begin now to change the narrative, especially for the new generation? First thing is that, look, give us some ideas how we can get the Gen Zs, time, attention, focus, energy, because the energy right now is all over the place. The attention, even the attention span for anything, it's all over the place, So we need something. You guys, you're the one that know. So tell us, how do we get your attention? Because we got to define the shape, just like you're saying. What is it going to look like? Our nations in Africa and Europe, what is it going to look like in the next 50, 20, 10 years even? What's it going to look like? So tell us, how do we get the attention of you guys? Tell me, Sheon.
So I will start with business as the first one.
Business.
The new generation understands with technological advancements, we understand that ideas rule the world. So at the stage where we are, and I'm not a Gen Z, I'm a millennial, right? But
are you?
I can understand the Gen Z.
Oh yeah. You are a millennial.
And I grew up in that era, in that sense, and I mentored quite a number of them, right? So I kind of understand that. But my point is that the Gen Z or the new generation, which could include millennials as well.
Yeah, of course.
They know that ideas rule the world. So the previous generation needs to capitalize on that. And how do you do that? One of the easiest ways that we can do that is realize if you're 50 and above, right? Yeah. Trying to build $1 billion or $10 billion company is perhaps not the best use of your time. So starting your own business, and I encourage people who are older to start businesses, but perhaps your business could be just a small business, and that's fine. It's profitable. As long as it's profitable and you're not losing money, that's fine. But in terms of aspiration, you're no longer aspiring to build $1 billion because you're already in the evening time and evening season of your life when you should be looking forward to resting. So what should you do? Your investment should look for the younger guys who have those ideas and invest in them. Virtual capitalists need to come into the play. We need to have angel investors from the older generation who would say, okay, 5-10 of us will come together, we'll put together £5,000 here, £1,000 here. We'll put a fund together and we'll look for a good idea from this younger generation and we'll invest in it. Fantastic. I think that's a very practical thing that can be done. And it doesn't have to be a lot of money. It can be £500 from 10 people. That goes a long way to helping that idea. That's number one. Once you help the idea, always remember that he who funds the idea actually owns the idea, not necessarily the person who generates the idea.
Okay. All of that. So basically we're saying we can use our business to get the attention of young people. Young people, they are very resources conscious, but we need to be able to channel that their consciousness in the right part, especially of business. And that means we need this older generation to begin to take that responsibility as well, because they'll probably get the attention of these people because they're going to help them to develop their business idea or whatever idea they have in their minds as well. And that's a great idea. And sometimes you wonder why people that have resources, all they do is looking for more resources, more money, and I'm thinking, to what end? Yeah. And this is where really the confusion is as well. Namsa, give us a solution, please, as well.
Yeah, I think it's more in alignment with what you're saying. I was thinking being open-minded to younger generations, have open doors, because
open doors,
because what saddens me is again, when we look at politicians, for example, we've got an election coming up in July, I think July or August, and we've got the same president that has done nothing queuing up to be a president again, to be elected again. And they are fighting off the new generation that want to come and take positions. And so you are not listening to what younger people are saying.
They don't believe there's a new generation. They don't believe there's a new generation.
They don't believe, because so they've shut the doors to younger generations that are coming with all these ideas for the nation, for the businesses you're talking about. So many businesses can be done, especially in the third world countries and nations.
Yeah.
But because the young people are young people, nothing more, nothing else. So if we actually take time to listen to what these young people are saying, we might actually have electricity every day in Africa. After all these years we've been what's the word I'm looking for now?
In the dark.
Since colonization.
Yes,
you know,
okay.
Sometimes it feels like we should go back to being colonized. Maybe our lives will be better. We'll have everything that we need. But how can we have been free for 43 years and we still don't have running water every day? We still don't have electricity every day. How can we have run away from our countries 30 years ago and we still can't go back 30 years later with all these things that we've discovered in the diaspora? How can we not take back all this knowledge? Because the doors are closed. The older generation don't want to hear. They still want to hold the positions without hearing. But maybe you can hold your position, but allow us in so that we can use our ideas whilst you're still in the position, so that change can happen with you in that position. And then when you decide to go, you can go, but things have changed for your people. So
fantastic.
Open those doors for us.
Open doors, business, investing, business gurus. Use little bit, and do you know, Sheon and Namsa, that is why you see in Europe right now, especially even the United Kingdom, they're investing. Have you seen the program? The apprenticeship program has gone to another level, and that's exactly what this nation is doing, preparing the next generation, making sure that those that have resources, either they like it or not, is a law that you got to raise others. That's exactly what that program does. Shutting your doors in the face of the younger generation, I think it's callous. I think it's just evil. And
I was
really,
sorry to cut you off. I was speaking to my husband about how much diamond we really have, even in Zimbabwe, or some raw materials we have in Africa, and he was trying to explain to me the amount of things that we have. And I thought to myself, who keeps all those things? And funny enough, it's the older generation that's got access to it.
They have access and they're not ready to open the door. But I won't prescribe another solution at the moment. What we'll do is that let's keep this conversation going. And one thing is that for all our viewers tonight and all the people that watch this broadcast, even at a later time, please listen to the voice of our new generation. They want you to invest in them. You have the resources, you build the resources, then invest in others. Because if you don't invest in others, then to what end is all those resources, all those ideas, all the things you know in the business world, and you don't pass it to others and you die with it? Number two, keep your doors open. Because of our time, I'm going to pause, right here, because this is an ongoing conversation. We need to continue with this conversation, and we're still on this subject of the new generation. But we want as many people that are listening to the broadcast, please share with people in leadership, share with people in government, share with people leading organizations and in our institutions, for them to begin to see what the cry is. By the time we come back again next week, we might even have more of the new generation, here as well, because we need our leaders to attend to their voice and to their need. And that is why we here at Etoile Europe, we will continue this leadership conversation so that we can be part of those who are responsible for making sure that the new generation rises. I'm going to pause here tonight. It's been such a pleasure having you, Sheon, David, and Nomsa. I know our guys really want to hear more from you. So I'm going to be right here in front of you, put you on the spot as well, and say we need you back, next week as well, so that we can continue this conversation as well. And I hope that your answer is going to be yes once we close this broadcast as well. It's such a journey. It's been such a fantastic night with us as well. By the way, You got to know that this is Itwala that is bringing you this program as well. And we always just like you to know, what does Itwala really do? And what do we represent? Watch this clip as we close tonight. God bless you, and we look forward to seeing you next week. Same time, same channel, same time, UK time, 9 p.m. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Miles Monroe Jr., and I'm the chairman of the board for the International Third World Leaders Association. Our organization was birthed to respond to and address the critical need for quality, effective leadership development and training in the emerging developing nations.
Our vision is to establish a global network of leaders from every discipline,
committed to the highest standards of excellence in leadership training, personal development,
mutual accountability, and fraternal support, implementing relevant and innovative leadership philosophy based on time-tested precepts, principles, and values.
Our mission is to influence the destiny of developing third world nations through leadership training,
personal development, supportive relationships, and global networking.
Our purpose is to provide transformational solutions
in response to the dynamic leadership needs of the emerging third world developing nations.
Our goal is to cultivate leadership commitment
to produce leaders
dedicated to the empowerment of their people,
the progressive well-being of their citizens,
and the betterment of their nation.
The strategic approach captured in the slogan coined by our founder, Dr. Miles Monroe,
was transforming followers into leaders and leaders into agents of change. Our focus is national development through transformational leadership,
transforming nations, communities from the inside out.
Join us in ushering in this new era of our organization.
We are tasked with carrying this vision forward,
and we are devoted to ensuring that we leave an unwavering legacy.
The organization that produces effective leaders
with global reach and influence.